Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do a recording here of MAR forms. Actually, I want to really just delve into recording on actually doing a contract, a MAR contract, Maryland Association of Realtors contract, because a lot of people have asked me about this. I'm just going to kind of like run through it. Um, this particular form that I've set up, I'm just going to call it buyer transaction. I've got the as is addendum here. I have the conventional financing addendum here as well. And I do have the residential contract of sale. But the idea really is to focus on the residential contract of sale. So that's the main thing that I want to focus on today on this. So some of the this screen might be a little bit different because this is actually an EXP screen. I'm using SkySlope. Without much ado, let's just delve right into it. Residential contract of sale is the main part. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have your date of offer. So I'm going to make that a little bit small. We're going to do that in there. So you want to have your date of offer. You want to have your seller information. Typically, all of this information would have been filled in or dragged from once you download every single thing um, from the MLS. That's a totally different class. I have a video for that. But I just want to take you step by step through this and make it a little bit quick for easy reference. So buyer information is already on there because I already selected that and I put it as buyer transaction. As you'll see, it says buyer transaction. That's the name I'm giving this particular folder. The property information is already in there. So over here you have how is the property being conveyed? Is it being conveyed in fee simple or is it subject to an annual ground rent? This particular property, like most properties in Maryland, will be fee simple. If it were in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, those areas have a lot more ground rent. But check with your um, checking the listing and to be sure what it is that we're doing that you will be doing. So in this, I'm saying again, fee simple. So I'm going to, you can do this one or two ways. You can try and you can, let me minimize this little screen. So you can do it as a box and put it on there, or you can do a checkbox and just check it right there, just for ease. So we're going to do checkbox over there. Then we're going to go ahead and since there's no grant rent, you don't need to do anything over there. You're just checking it. It's being conveyed in fee simple. Then we're going to go over here and you're going to say, what is your purchase price? Actually, I could be actually filling all this out as I'm going along so that we don't have to come back and, because I'm making it a little bit a longer process by doing it this way. So, date of offer, we're going to put today's date on there. 02, today is the 23rd. So, 02, 23, 2022. The seller, we're going to call it, we're going to put the seller's name as seller and last name is transaction. Humor me, please. Then we're doing fee simple. We're purchasing it as say 330,000 and 30. My typing is a little bit slow. 330,000, $330,000. And then over here, you're gonna do the same thing right here, but this time you're gonna do it in words. I love it when a contract is totally, completely filled out without any blanks. It does make your offer look a whole lot better. If, agents will love to see, an offer that is clean, that is just nice. Then we're gonna say over here, we delivered the it says the payment of the purchase price shall be made by buyer as follows. Buyer has or shall deliver. So if you haven't delivered it yet, you don't say you've delivered it. You're going to say it has, or so will be delivering. So the buyer will deliver within 3 days. Within 3 days is what you want to do. You want to do within 3 days of your offer being ratified. The quicker you get this money to your title company, the better. And it makes your offer look way better. So within 3 days is what I'm going to put here, 3, and you can just say, you can put in parentheses as well, 3 days. So within 3 days of the contract being, 3 days of the date of contract acceptance and initial deposit by way of, I like to say by way, what I love to do here is I say by check or wire transfer. So check or wire transfer. So we got that done in the amount of how much is, if you're doing, I'm assuming this is going to be your earnest money deposit. So how much do you want to do? A lot of agents do 1 to 2% in this market, different class, but in this market, I'll recommend that you do as much, as high as the buyer is willing and able to do for your offer to stand out and to look much better. Just for sake of argument over here, we're buying a $330,000 house. You're going to have a lot of people competing. Why do 2%? 2% is $600. I'll do 10 grand. I want it to look good. Now, there are also ways that you protect your client to make sure that, you're all on the same page, so your client does not lose their EMD. That's crucial. So let's move this over here, and this is just the basics of what you want to do. And again, we're talking about MER contract. So we go $10,000, makes it look good. And if your client is willing to put any additional money down on 7B, you state that, however additional money they want to put down as down payment. If not, then you don't need to worry about that. But if it is, you say right there, additional deposit by way of check or wire transfer, again, in the amount of whatever the dollar amount is. Up here, you want to tell them, the seller, listing agent, how or what title company, if you and your buyer have selected one. So I'm just going to say, right here, I'm just going to say title company, one of the ones that I use, that I love a lot, I put in it, but now I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say title company. So whatever your title company is that you're selecting is what you will put over here. So make sure that you put your title company's information there. Otherwise, again, you're going to have a contract that is not clean, that is not full. We're going to decide over here that we want it to be, if that's what your buyer select, to be in a non-interest bearing account. And then we're going to say what day you're settling, what day, again, this market, 30 days or less. If you're financing and you have had a conversation with your lender and they're able to do that, let's do 30 days or less. Today is a 2/23. Depending on what that day falls, we can just go ahead and say March 23rd, which is on it. So that's perfect. So we're going to do 03, it's 23, 2022. Then you're going to select over here what kind of financing your buyer is using. If they're using a conventional, you use conventional. Whatever they're using, you just select it. So in this case, just for sake of argument, we're going to go conventional loan. So I'm selecting conventional. And moving right along, you're going to let them know right here, when is your client applying for, if they already applied for their loan, you put it right here, and you put your terms right here. So I typically, because I've already gotten everything pre-approved, everything is good, I know, my client is good to go, I do 3 days. That's what I do. I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm just saying that's what I do based on my relationship with my lender and my conversation and consultation with my buyer. So I do 3 days. Now, you start seeing over here, this is me just filling out this, but I'm preparing this document also for my buyer to sign. So I'm going to start doing that as we go along as well. So we're going to do initials. You're going to put it right here. Make sure that you select in when you only one transaction. So it's going to be your buyer transaction. That's why your buyer is going to initial. You're preparing this for your buyers to sign. So buyer initials over there. We're going to put over here. And we're saying then that a written financing commitment will be obtained within 21 days. 21 days is typically what I do. Again, it could be sooner than that, depending on your conversation with your lender and depending on what you guys know and have gotten established, if you will. So that's what I do here. So 21 days. is what's going to go in there, and I put that there. So moving right along. Again, over here, is my client doing an inspection? Yes, they are. Have we attached any addenda for the inspection? Yes, we have. So we're going to do it right here. If my client says they are buying this, they don't want any inspection, they want to decline inspection, obviously you're going to get them to initial where it says inspection declined. I'm not going to bore you by going through any of this, inclusions and exclusions, because I'm assuming that you already have that in your exclusion, in your disclosures. But what I would do here is, instead of doing all that, I can just say I'm also see attached addendum. Okay? Or addenda, if you have more than one. So see attached addenda. All right? The same thing for as far as your additional inclusions, the same thing goes for your exclusions. I'll do the same thing. Again, making your contract look super clean. So see attached addenda. So that's what that will do over there. Agricultural assessed, if it's not, if it's in that area, or sure, whatever the case is, verify with the listing agent. But I always put over here seller, because it's the responsibility of the seller and the listing agent, in my opinion, to at least declare that to you, to let you know. So I do, translate to be paid by seller. If the listing agent doesn't like it, or if there's something totally different, that could be, you could change, that could be changed. Oops, let me make sure I change that. Otherwise, the buyer will be the one that you're gonna have to come back again and now redo all of the, you have to now start initially next to it, so you don't want that. So let's make sure that's done right. Okay, so over here I want to make sure that it's me. Okay, perfect. And here the buyer is going to be initially. So moving right along. Again, over here, writable, there's a first conservation or management program. I'm going to do that the same thing here. I'm ascribing that to the seller. All right. Lead-based 16. If this property is built before 1978, make sure that you include that, the disclosures over there, and get your clients to initial that part. Whether or not there's a risk of lead-based, your buyer needs to initial that. So this is the place that your buyer needs to initial. So you start going along. Let's move it on rapidly. Get them to initial there as well. Over here, you make sure that these are all the things that your buyer needs to initial, by them reading and understanding what each one of those things mean, meaning there will be other disclosures that is attached to it that they need to be aware of and understand, that they need to read through, that you should have done a good job of explaining to them as well. Over here on paragraph 17 is talking about this notice regarding disclosure of deferred water. If there's any deferred water, make sure your client is aware of that, so that they know that there's going to be extra money that they have to pay on a yearly basis. Again, they need to initial right here. So moving it along, we're going to put the initial over there. We're going to put the initial at the bottom over here as well. Again, this section, paragraph 18, you need to make sure that any addenda or that you are including, you want to initially here. Don't bore everybody, don't make it too complicated by selecting every single thing. It's only what you want to make a part of the contract that needs to be included over here. For example, if there is if there's a conservation easement, you want to make sure that you select that, you check that box. If you're attaching, let's say your buyer is a first-time home buyer and you're using a separate addenda to talk about that, a separate addendum to talk about that, then you select it. If you don't need to, don't. If your contract is contingent upon a homeowner's HOA notice, make sure you select that. If there's a kick out, select that. If you're escalating and you're making that part of this contract, select that. If not, you don't need to. If there's no seller contribution, you don't need to select that. If a solar panel is part of this contract, if this contract is contingent on any solar panel, you select that. If it's not, you don't need to. You don't need to start selecting a bunch of stuff like the ABA. You don't need to select affiliated business disclosure because that's not necessarily part of the contract. If you including it for them to sign it, yeah, they sign that is attached there. But you're not insisting that it's not something that needs to, encumber the contract, if you will. If my contract is being purchased strictly as is, I need that. So I need to check on there for whatever reason, whether it is to make your seller or your listing agent say, okay, boom, these people are ready to go. They understand that this is an as-is property. They're not making any big deal about this situation, so we don't have to go through another layer of, going back and forth on removing contracts or addendum that doesn't need to belong. You select that as is. We understand that. We're doing this strictly as is. So we're not doing any property inspection addendum that needs to be on there. So you select that. So it makes it real easy to go through. If this contract is also contingent upon the Property Disclosure Disclaimer Act, I select that. So in this particular deal, I know I'm going to be using that, so I'm going to select that. I'm going to select that. I know we're doing an as-is. I'm going to select that. First time buyer program, all that, I don't need that because it's not necessary for me in this particular situation. So those are the two things that I really want to make contingent. I want to make sure that my buyer understands that and the seller understands that that's what we're dealing with. So I include those and I move it right along. If there's any other addenda that is a special, for example, let's say over here, you want to let them understand that your buyer, for example, is willing to they want to, they're open to maybe giving them extra number of days or whatever, and you have an addendum for that, right, put it right here. If you're in a situation where your buyer is saying, listen, I'll pay X amount of dollars above, above appraisal if it doesn't appraise, yeah, you put under that, okay, there's another addenda that is attached as a special condition, buyer will pay $1,000, okay, above. You don't even have to say it like that. Sorry, I'll take that back. You just need to put on there. There's a special addendum. You just say see attached blank addendum or general addendum, whatever you're using. Make sure you reference that blank addendum. Blank. I said black. Blank addendum or general addendum, whatever you're using, make sure you reference that general addendum. Okay, I'm just going to say, so that's it. You do that. I love to do something over here because I'm doing that as special. One of the things that I do, if I do a special thing there at times, I love to just have my buyer initial that so that they know that, yes, we did put that. So I want them to initial that. So it's not just me adding it to it or it looks like I came back afterwards and I put that on there. So moving right along, we selecting all the places. I know I'm going through it and I know I'm not reading a lot of them. I'm assuming that you understand the contract, and if you don't, we can have a contract class where we actually go, paragraph by paragraph to go through exactly what each paragraph talks about. But this is just to briefly show you how to, fill out your Maryland Association of Realtors contract. It tells you what your buyer's responsibilities are. It tells you, what the HOA, the property is not a part of, the property is not a part of a development subject to, it tells you all those things, that things that you need to understand. But it's saying that over there, if it is, then you need to explain that to your client. You need to let them know, what how soon they need to be getting that information and what their rights are, within the time frame when they can actually use that, if that's something that they need to use, if there's an issue discovered in that HOA doc. Okay, so moving right along, again, you're going to select this part. These are all the places that your buyer needs to, and as you can see, there is nothing really here that you need to fill in. So we've done all the things that needs to be filled in at the top, which is dollar amount and things like that. So moving right along, it's really quick and easy. Trying to make this class probably less than 15 minutes. So it's easy for you to just reference. Then you ascribe signature to your buyer and you ascribe the date that they sign it to them. Okay. Now, This part right here that says date of contract acceptance, you leave it blank. This is going to be filled out if your contract is accepted and it's ratified. The last person that signs the contract will be the person that puts the date and time there. So let's say, for example, I send this to the listing agent and they accept it and they send it back and they say, oh, by the way, we crossing out one line, or we don't agree with this, or let's say we don't want 10,000 EMD. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just giving you an example of anything that could happen. Let's say they change something and they cross it out and they say that is a counter to your offer. Now, if you and the agent talks and you both agree and then you accept that counter, the moment you accept it and your client signs and initials that part, if that's the only part that is left, once they initial it, then over here you can at that moment put the date of your contract acceptance on there, because now that's the last thing you put down there and boom, you send it away and you ratify. Over here, if your client is a first-time home buyer, this is where you check this box right here and makes your life easy. The buyer names is already prior transaction. Please fill out the buyer's address. If they provide it to you, encourage them to provide it to you. Put it on there on this section. The seller's information, make sure you also fill this out. Where it says broker of record, you want to make sure that your broker's information is here. This is important. Please make sure, again, it just makes your contract stand out way better and it makes everything look nice and clean. So I'm going to put my broker's name on there, Lisa Lowe, and I'm going to put my broker's license number on there. Oops, I wasn't typing, was I? So let's go. You put that in there. My name is on there. I need to put my license information on there. Typically, all of this information really would have transferred because when I prepare my documents, everything would have been on there. So typically, it would have, all this information would have transferred. You want to make sure your office address is on here. I'm just going to shorten everything. Say when you try to shorten stuff, you don't remember. It's National Plaza. So you put your brokerage address on there. Make sure you have that full information in there. Put your brokerage information on there. Just so you put the brokerage information. Make sure you put the brokerage phone number on there where your broker can be reached, where they can get through to your office. Ouch. So I'm gonna just make all this. I think that's not. So you put all that in there. Make sure your cell phone number is on there. Your email address is on there. And who do you represent? This is the listing part. So this is the listing agent. So you represent the listing agent. Oh, come on. Oops. Sorry. I'm trying to make this pretty quick. Sorry. Okay, so let's do a checkbox, and it's gonna be a checkbox. It's gonna be that's on there. As the seller agent, make sure you have your information. You're the one that is actually presenting this offer. So the same thing goes here. Put your broker of record on there. So I'm just gonna say broker this time, right? Because I just don't want it to look like this is a Maryland contract. I cannot represent both sides. So, just as a caution, just remember that I cannot represent both sides, but I don't want it to confuse you. So that's the reason for that. So my broker, I'm gonna actually put my broker's name here, and I'm gonna go up top and change that because this is showing that it's me on both sides. So up here, I'm just gonna say, I'm going to call it broker. I'm just going to say broker. Okay. And we're going to assume up here that that's a different name for the brokerage. But if it's the same brokerage, of course, your broker takes care of that. The broker will assign whoever is going to be, the agents, the ICAs. So license number, I'm just going to pick a random number on there because I don't want it to look exactly the same. But I'm going to change up here again just to prove the point. So whoever is looking at this at a later date can understand and not be confused assuming any other agent from another brokerage, for example, is looking at this. So there's no confusion of sorts. So I'm going to change the brokerage name up here. So I'm just gonna X all this out, and I'm gonna say Remax, just because I don't want any, I think it's Remax 1, something like that. So I'm gonna do it like that. All right, so that way we don't have any confusions. Perfect. So we have that information on there. The agent's name over here obviously is not gonna be me. So we're gonna say, who is the listing agent on this property? Listing agent on this property, we're gonna put them on here. We're gonna call them listing agent. I know I'm spending a little bit of time on here, and it looks redundant, but it's important because I just don't want to create any confusion. So listing agent, because Maryland does not allow dual agency. So that's the reason why I'm making up a point to do this. Okay, I'm gonna call it 1371 Main Street for the address, and, wherever the address is. And then over here, we're gonna assume that that's the phone number for that office. You're gonna have a new phone number for whoever that agent is, so just to be sure. Okay, so that's that. Then over here, you're going to select, you are the buyer's agent. Just for you EXP agents out there, remember we don't do sub-agency. Yeah, EXP either. So that's it for that part. That is very easy, straightforward how you do MAR contract. Of course, you're going to come down here to all the disclosures and things like that, and make sure that you have the disclosures all done right as well. Ascribe signatures where they need to go to, initials where they need to go to, all that kind of good stuff. So again, just to reiterate, the MAR form is pretty easy, pretty straightforward to fill out. All you're doing is you fill out maybe the first page or so is where you just put exactly what you're doing, which is the date of your offer, the seller's information, the buyer's information, the property address needs to be correctly filled out. How's the property being conveyed? You also make sure that you put the purchase price on there. You're going to say how the EMD is going to be conveyed or transmitted. Make sure you have the title company's name on here. Make sure you tell them that it's going to be by check or wire offer. Make sure you ascribe, is it going into a non-interest bearing account, and you put on there your proposed settlement date. That's it. You do that, everything is easy peasy. So for more information, you can contact me or follow me, or just check out my YouTube page, and hopefully this helps some. All right. Thank you very much. Let me stop the recording now.